What's going on, everyone? Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another amazing episode of Real Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Key. I have an amazing guest for you today, John Smoke Brown, former NFL player, a Miami native, a very spiritual guy, man, God-fearing guy, a great leader in the community. Before we start, John, you got anything else you want to say to the camera before we start?
I'm just thankful to be here. I'm excited, about what we about to talk about, what we about to get into, and I appreciate you, for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. First thing I want to talk about, obviously, is football. How old were you when you first started playing football and fell in love with the game of football?
I first started playing when I was 5. Just walking to practice every day with my older brother, who was a year older than me, and seeing the amazing things that he was doing. He was talented, he was athletic, and he got it from his dad. And clearly I didn't have it at that time, but watching him and seeing him doing these amazing things, I wanted to do what my brother was doing.
Yes. And what part was that? When you first started playing football, I know you from Homestead. What park in Homestead that you first started playing for?
I played with Florida City Razorbacks.
Okay.
A lot of people say Homestead, for who out of town. But when you talking home, I'm from Florida City, born and raised.
So playing football, who inspired you to want to play? Like who was that role model for you as a child for playing football?
Who inspired me was Roscoe Parrish. When I used to watch University of Miami back in the days, I realized how small he was, and wasn't nobody gonna tell him what he couldn't do at that time. So I looked it up to Roscoe Parrish, and I wanted to be like him.
That's amazing, man. And growing up, Florida City Razorback, when did you know as a young kid, young Smoke Brown, that you knew, okay, I can do something with football?
I'll say when I got to back then it was by pounds. So when we played pounds, I would say, probably like 110.
Yes.
This time I'm like 12 years old. So, the coach always had confidence in me. It was to the point to put him in there, like let him play defense. He got hard. And, the coach always expressed that I had heart. Because even in the time when we was playing, like, you say your name, you say your number, the coaches wouldn't even let me weigh in. They were like, oh, just go. So they treated me like I wasn't a factor then.
Because your size.
Because of my size. So by my coaches saying, like, he got the biggest heart on the team, that made me turn up a notch, and that made me go to another level when it came to football.
And at the early age where you football, what was one of the biggest challenges you think you had to overcome at an early age playing you football at Florida City on Florida City Park?
My hardest thing was to overcome, was my size, being overlooked. And a thing when I was younger, I used to struggle with seizures. So that was something, and I would still have to like go out there and play. But, when people told me the things that I couldn't do, people laughed at me because of my size. That was something that I had to overcome.
So if we're talking to some viewers in the world, and another young John Brown, growing up in the ranks, Florida City Park, wherever they playing at, and they're getting discouraged by their size. What are some things that you can tell them right now that, that helped you?
The thing I would tell them is, listen, hard work beat talent any day. Because, I know a lot of people that was way more talented than me, but, I had to work hard. I had to do the extra. I had to go an extra mile because, these people didn't want to look at me, because of my size. But once they seen my work ethic and they seen the things that I did behind closed doors, instead of trying to please my coaches, everything speaks for itself. So when you put in hard work, it will speak for itself. The only thing you have to do is show up.
Amen. I love it, man. So talking about your biggest challenges, what is one of the biggest success moments for you growing up, young age, little league football? What are some things that you can still remember that's the most memorable moment of your life in little league football?
My most memory in little league football, just playing and doing what I'm told to do. Any position the coach need me to be at, that was the position that I was gonna play. I wasn't gonna tell the coach what I wasn't gonna do. So the coach needed me at linebacker, I would play linebacker. The coach would put me at running back half of the time, I would go to running back. Whatever it is that I needed to do at that time to try to figure out what I was gonna play when I got older, because football was my only plan. It wasn't no plan A, plan B. I just had a plan A. So that was the main thing. Wherever my coaches needed me to be, and wherever I was at, I did it well. I did exactly what I was coached to do.
Amen. So nowadays, these kids are big on positions, and I need to play this position. I need to play running back. I need to play quarterback. If not, I won't make it. Um, did that matter? Like, does that matter? Speaking to a guy that made it, you made it to the highest level of football in the early age in youth football. We speaking to some parents now, some viewers. Does the positions matter when they're that age?
No, it don't matter. And just before you said, I was gonna say it's not even the kids, it's the parents. And you got a lot of kids that they dad didn't make it, so the dad trying to force it on them. When I first started out, I was playing. I wasn't even playing. Back then it was 6 plays. I wasn't even getting 6 plays when we played like Gwen Cherry, Liberty City. But once everybody went up and I stayed down, I started off at defensive lineman. And then I was scared of contact, to be honest. So the coach was like, okay, we're going to put you at safety. Anything break free, you're going to learn how to tackle. So I started off as a defensive player. I didn't really know that I was going to be a receiver until I got to like the age 12, 13, to realize, okay, like I can catch, I can run routes. I'm dirt slow, but, at the time, when I was playing, our coaches were trying to figure out what was our weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of parents don't want to expose their children's weakness. So once your weakness exposed, we know like, okay, this is where we got to get this kid strong at. This is what we got to keep this kid away from, to help him. But when you try to join a stacked team, your weakness not getting exposed. So when you get to a level to where you think you going to play on the biggest stage, now you exposed because you haven't even went through the steps of like, okay, this coach got him at this position for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Amen. So we talked about the Little League football. We talked about your challenges and some things that you had success in. Outside of football, as a kid, growing up in Florida City, on Florida City Park, at home, what were some things you had to prevail through outside of football?
I mean, schoolwork, had to keep the grades up, But, the main thing was just when we didn't have football, doing organization sports, we did it, in the streets. Like we did football 24/7. Like, we stayed out the way. We didn't get into any trouble. So the thing was like, let's try to figure out how we can get better. How they got all these camps and things. We didn't have that. It's like we gonna get in the streets. We gonna go to a side of a church, anywhere we could play football at. That's what we was gonna do, to stay out of trouble and also get better.
Mm-hmm. Amen. So let's fast forward a little bit. We talked about, Little League football, and I want to bring it up to high school now. You went to Homestead Senior High School. What made you want to go there? And how was the adjustment coming from Little League football to your freshman year in high school?
So my freshman year, I went to South Dade first.
Oh, South Dade, okay.
I went to South Dade first, and, I wasn't nothing but about 5'4", about 106 pounds. So, I went to high school to play when I could have played another year on the park. But, I wanted to follow the footsteps of my brother. But I didn't play at all. I didn't see the field. So, I used to wrestle when I was younger. And then when I got in high school, I was doing wrestling, as well. But that whole year of playing, my 9th grade year, I didn't touch the field at all. Came back my 10th grade year, I got a little height on me, I got a little size, but it wasn't enough. I was playing, but, they wasn't throwing me the ball. They wasn't looking my way. And one day I was in the cafeteria playing, and the head coach, on the varsity team was like, "You will never play for me." He told me to my face, "You will never play for me." And, my brother told me to transfer, and, he told me to go to Homestead. So that's how I ended up at Homestead.
Okay. And as you got to Homestead, how was the transition? And, so you went to Homestead your sophomore year.
Yeah, at the end of my sophomore
year. Okay,
year.
End of your sophomore year. And let's talk about that. Was it a big transition, a hard transition from transferring from South Dade to Homestead? And did you play right away, or like how did that go?
Yeah, when I got to Homestead, I played right away.
Okay.
They ran the spread offense.
Okay.
I had the routes, I had the hands, like I said. But the thing was that I wasn't in the weight room. So, God bless the dead, I got around JoJo Nicholas. And, he made sure, I worked hard every day. I lift weights and do the things that I had to do. And when I stepped on the field, it wasn't no looking back. I made the plays that need to be made. And, I stepped up in big-time situations.
So in high school, when did you really say, I can go to school for this. Like I can honestly go to school now for football.
I always had it in me, after that 11th grade year, I felt like I had it in me. I felt like I could be, that D1 player like Roscoe Parrish and stuff like that. But, I was told, by my coaches, I was too small. I wasn't fast enough for Division One. So it was so many things that were trying to come my way, to put me down, to crush my spirit, to feel like I couldn't do it. So I knew always in my life I had to prove people wrong. So, okay, this is another step where I got to prove people wrong. And, I was willing to do it.
So what you proving people wrong and all these coaches are saying this and that about you, was there ever a time where you felt discouraged?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I felt discouraged, most of the time because it was like, my coach, he don't see the work that I'm putting in. Like I said earlier, I'm doing all the work behind closed doors, but you not seeing the work that I'm putting in. You not telling me, hey, you got a chance if you keep working. But, instead of like lifting me up, you putting me down. So that was something like really hard that I had to overcome. But, it was like I had to keep working. This ain't the first time I had to go through this.
Amen. So speaking to the viewers, maybe again, another young Smoke Brown, and they 130 pounds in high school, 5'2", and they just don't have the size, they don't have the height, they don't have it. And what are some things that you can tell them if this football is really something that they're trying to do to change their life and change their circumstances?
Oh, I could tell them just work hard every day. Work hard every day. They got TikTok. They got you. Look up your favorite player. Look them up and, mimic their game. That's something I used to do. And, not just Roscoe Parrish, but I was a big fan of Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. So, they were like one of the smoothest route runners, back then. So it's like, I want to be smooth like that. I want to run routes like that. So I used to watch them and I would try to go to the field and I would mimic, everything that they was doing. And, it actually helped me, with my game. And the thing about it was that I didn't need a crowd around me when I worked out. It'll just be me by myself, running routes, running gassers, doing the things that I needed to do to get better, for myself. And then, to be able to come back and, to be the team player that needed me.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, okay, we've been talking about Little League. We talked about high school. Outside of football, what were some things that you had to prevail in high school? There's always some things people going through outside of football, and it just where you really had to put your faith to test and like to lean on God a little bit.
Even in that time, when I was going through things in high school, my faith wasn't there. We were just running around. We was running the streets, and around this time we got in high school. This is when we started seeing, people getting killed. We started, every 3 months we were moving from house to house. And, it was getting draining. And it's to a point to where, like, all my siblings, we crunched up in one room. And it's like, hey, like, I can't keep living like this. So that was something that motivated me. Like, hey, okay, like, football is the only thing I know. I gotta make it happen. So that was a battle for me.
Did you ever feel the pressure of like, I gotta do this because I gotta get my family out of this? Did you ever feel like they depend on me and I don't want to let them down?
At first I didn't because, I had my older brother. He was the athlete, like everybody, like when it came to sports, they talked about him. So I was the one living up in the shadow, like they talked about him. So I'm like, okay, like, hey, he got it. He the one that, he could make it. But in all of that, I'm saying that, hey, like my brother gonna make it. But the thing about it, I didn't see it in myself because he was the one telling me, hey, if I don't make it, you gonna be the one that make it. And he was saying this, once we got into our senior year. And I didn't understand it. And I'm like, no, like you the one. Everybody talking about you. But the thing about it was people didn't know I was working behind closed doors because, like I said, when I was a junior in high school, I was running the 5.4. I was running the 5.4 and the 40. The 12th grade, I was running the 4.9. So I was just a late bloomer. That's the thing about it. Like, just because you don't see it right now, you just got to keep working. And then my first year in college, I jumped from a 4.9 to a 4.3 like that.
Wow.
So the thing about it was my brother seen everything in me that I didn't see in myself. Wow. So that was the point to where I'm like, okay, like he the one got it. Everybody, they honor him. They love what he do. I'm just the one living behind. But when he ended up, getting shot, I'm like, okay, now I got to take on the role as a bigger brother.
Right. So let's talk about your senior year in high school. The season's over with. Now it's time to go to school. Let's talk about that process, and because I did some research and I seen that it's a little challenging for you. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And through it all, how was that process?
Oh, it was
Looking back on it.
It was tough, but just seeing the process, my best friend Marcus Robinson, he was a 5-star. So he had every school coming out there. So his thing was like, hey, listen, if y'all gonna take me, y'all gotta take him. And schools was with it. But we had coaches like, nah, like y'all don't want to take him, he not ready. So I'm like thinking I'm finna go, Division I, off my friend. But I had like a D2 school, Henderson State. They came and offered me a scholarship, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going there. Because I'm thinking like I want to be a Division I player like a lot of these kids now. I'm like, I'm gonna go Division I. So I end up taking my test. I end up scoring a 19, on the test, and then, by the time I did get my test scores, it was too late. So all the D1 schools that, I had Coach Anton Hall, he was the one that was calling people trying to get me in school. But everybody was like, hey, like we done gave our last scholarship away. So I ended up going to a Division II school in North Carolina. So it was a tough process. It was frustrating because I felt like I wanted it my way. It was going to be my way or no way.
Yes.
But I ended up, having to go the D2 route.
Yes. And when you got there, let's talk about that. How was the transition from high school to Division II? And like, what were some challenges that you had to face in college? I done got to college. And what are some things that you just really had to prevail through that?
My thing was homesick. Being away. This is my first time away from home, first time away from, my mom and my family. I cried for like 2 weeks straight.
And you was in Mars Hill, right?
Mars Hill in North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
This is my first time away, so I'm crying and, I'm just like, man, I can't do this. And I'm like, man, I'm ready to go home. I'm calling my mama, I'm lying, making excuses, trying to come back home. And, my cousin, Daniel Charles, he ended up calling me. And I'm like, man, listen, I don't want to hear what you're talking about. I'm going back home. And he was like, like, just for me, cuz, give it a week. If you don't like it, I'm going to leave you alone and I'm going to let you go back home. So I'm like, okay. And, I did all that crying, but like, man, once the ball went to getting thrown in the air and, I went to making plays because the thing about it is, Florida football, Miami speed is just different. So I came in and I adjusted quick. And, I started making friends, whatever. My mama like, okay, I got the money to get you a flight to come home. I'm like, no, I'm good now. I'm fine now. I done made some friends. I'm playing football and stuff like that. They get me involved in the offense. And it doesn't matter. Like, even when you not even that 4-3 guy, like, you could be a 4-8, but when you from Miami and you go somewhere, listen, the speed's just different. People gonna think you the fastest thing out.
Amen. So let's talk about the Mars Hill. What was the reason why you had to leave there to go JUCO?
Yeah, so what had happened was I got in trouble with my test scores. So they came back and flagged me, so I made
that happens.
I made South Atlantic Conference Freshman of the Year the first year. And I'm getting ready to go into the second year. Like, I done put on weight. I done started growing. I grew to like 5'10". I was like 185. Like, I'm preparing like for this whole season. And they come back and they like, hey, like your test scores.
They flagged you from your high school score.
Yeah,
they waited a whole year.
Waited a whole year. So I'm getting ready to go into my second year to dominate and, take over because we had to do Tyrell Allen. He was a senior and, he left. So it's like, okay, like now they putting everything in my hands. And then we had to do Jonas Randolph. He ended up winning the Harlem Hill one year. So I'm preparing and everything. And the week before the game, they come and flag me.
Wow.
So this is a time where I got to sit out, but I'm still able to practice. I'm still going to practice every day, like exposing the defense, working hard, doing what I got to do. But when, the dude, Jonas, I watched it, the dude getting the ball, he getting like 50 carries a game. And I'm like, no, this ain't the offense I need to be in, to be able to go to the next level, to the NFL. So, at the end of the season, I asked the coach to release me. And he was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, so he basically tried to put me to a place to where I was stuck, to where I couldn't go.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, listen, like, You ain't got no degree. Nobody in your family got a degree. So, he kind of was down talking me. And, they was like, the only way that you can leave is that you got to go to a JUCO. So that's how I ended up in, Coffeyville.
In Coffeyville, Kansas.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So, but, even before that, before I went to Coffeyville, because I didn't go to school that spring, so I spent time at home just working out, working out all day, trying to get myself right, get back together.
Wow. So let's talk about Coffeyville. So when you got to Coffeyville, did you play that your first year there?
No. So the thing about it, before I even got to Coffeyville, in that time when I was working out just at home, my brother, he was at Mid-America Nazarene in Kansas. And, he came back home and, he was like, hey, like, come here, like, play here. Like, you ain't got no school. But I'm like, no, I'm too good for that. I'm still thinking I'm D1 talent. I'm like, I'm too good for that. And us being home, he got caught in a situation, being in the wrong place, wrong time. He ended up getting shot. But, even the day he got shot, me and him was walking. And, I remember it like yesterday. I had on some blue gym shorts with a white shirt. And he had on some black gym shorts with a tank top. And we were just walking. And, the words out of his mouth, he was like, if I don't make it, I know you gonna make it. So, when he told me that, I'm like, yeah, I got it. Because around this time, we playing street football. We 18 years old, we playing people 25 and older, we playing for money. And, his thing was, if you don't play, we don't win. So this is the time I'm still not seeing my true talent, but he could see everything that I can't see. Mm-hmm. So, he ended up getting shot that night. And, he ended up down like twice and came back. So he fought for like 9 months, and I go to Coffeyville. And Coffeyville let me know, like, hey, like, we got like 90 out-of-state, players. So only 13 can make the team. So I'm like, okay, like, I'm going to make the team. You ain't saying nothing. Like, I get there. I'm doing everything I need to do. I was the 13th person to get cut. So this another year, I have to sit out. But I'm going to practice every day. And the coach is lying to me like, hey, South Florida out here to see you. Hey, like, these D1 schools want to see you to get me to come there. But he didn't know, like, that was my outlet to keep me from, my mind going crazy, thinking about my brother. And, I'm like, I'm going to go to either FIU or FAU. I'm going to just go walk on so I can be closer to my brother. And, while we in practice, we had, like, a lot of people, you got a lot of D1 kids that get in trouble. And they come to these JUCOs to try to stay out of trouble. And I'm exposing the defense. I'm exposing the DBs. And the coach pulled me to the side and was like, he pulled me out of practice in the middle of practice, like, hey, he was like, we want to give you a scholarship right now. Just off of 1 day of practice. So just imagine if I would have never went.
Yes.
And it's like, we want to give you a scholarship right now. And I'm like, y'all Division I? He was like, nah, we got everything like Division I. I said, well, I ain't coming. So the school was Pitt State.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, I ain't coming. I'm good. I went back out to practice, and it was like a whole 4-month process to where I was working out. And like Coach Garman, he was like the recruiter for Pitt State. And Coach Garman like 70-something years old, and I'm like, man, this man don't know nothing about football. But like he go back and he telling like the Pitt State coaches like, hey, y'all need to go see this dude. Like y'all need to go get him. Like y'all need to get him now, because they were trying to get me to leave Coffeyville and come sit out at Pitt State. So I couldn't go nowhere, but I'm like, no, I'm going to just stay here and I'm going to weigh my options. So I never got a chance to play, and it was just like straight practice.
And man, that's big, man, because that can be discouraging, you know, because a lot of guys are scared to go the JUCO route because some don't make it out of JUCO.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Some, some guys, when they get to JUCO, you get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
So what made you go to Pitt State after that?
So every time I tell this story, I laugh, and people think like I'm playing. Like the coach, like he called me one day, Coach Tim Beck. I love him. And he was like calling me because we had a coach named Coach Ike who went to Pitt State, and he was the coach at Coffeyville. And they was like, hey, listen, try to get him down here. So the coach got my number. He was just calling me. He was like, hey, I'm gonna come down, like, and come see you. And he like, where you want to eat at? I'm like, all right, we can go to McDonald's. You know, like, cause it wasn't nothing to do in
Right.
Coffeeville anyway. Coffeeville about 10 minutes, like in and out.
Right.
And he drove down. It's like an hour drive. He drove down like an hour. I never came out. I never came out the room. He drove way down. Never came out.
So he calling you and texting you like,
called
where are
me,
you?
texting me, never came out. And he texted me back like, it's okay, I'll catch you next time. And he come back again, it's snowing. It's like two feet of snow. He drive down. And he like, hey, I'm here again. And I'm telling him to come. But when he get here, I'm not interested. He drive way down. I don't respond, I don't answer. You know, I'm changing my number. Every time I'm changing my number, he get my number. And I'm like, man, I'm not going. So, you know, it just get to a point to where one day, like, Coach Ike, like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, nothing. He like, put on some clothes. We finna go to Pitt. Like, we go to Pitt State. And, you know, he take me to this party and, you know, he just telling me like, hey, listen, like this John Brown, he gonna be the man, he coming here. And I'm like, man, I'm not coming here. Like, you out your mind, you thinking I'm coming here. Like, I'm too good for this. But me, I don't got no film or nothing. And I'm like, I'm not coming. So I ended up, you know, just going through the process and the coach just texted me. He was like, okay, you know what, just come on a visit. Come on a visit. If you don't like it, I'll leave you alone. You know, I go on a visit. And, like, I'm seeing this place, and I'm like, man, like, Coach Garmin ain't lying. You know, this is like a Division I. Got everything. They showing me the uniform. They sponsored by Nike. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, it's cool, but I still don't want to come here. So, you know, I go into the room, and I meet with the coach. And the coach had a whole bunch of scholarships on the paper, on the table. And he threw them all on the floor. And he like, this who I'm worried about right here. But mind you, I ain't playing 2 years. Everything been just practice. And, you know, he just goes to like, okay, we want you. But if you come here, you can't commit to nobody else. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to just weigh my options. You know, like, I want to visit other schools. But I didn't have no other places to visit, you know, like, tell you the truth, because nobody else really wanted me. And, you know, he just gave me the scholarship paper. And he like, here go the scholarship paper. This is for you to just, you know, think about it. So, man, I go back, you know, to Coffeeville. I give my homeboys the paper, man. They smoking, they using it as ash paper. I'm like, man, I ain't going there. And them boys like, man, like, you need to think about what you doing. Like, this a big opportunity for you. And I'm like, nah, man, I ain't going. Like, I'm good because, you know, like all the Miami people, when we get together, we stick together. But they, you know, they would let me know where I was wrong at. And I'm like, nah, I'm all right. I'm going to just go back to FIU. And, you know, like, that's how the process happened. So when I ended up, like, it was probably like a week or 2 after that, you know, I woke up in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I called the coach, and he was up. And he was like, the day your lucky day. I told him, the day your lucky day. And he was like, what you mean? I'm like, I'm coming to Pitt. And, you know, like, he was excited. So in the time of him, like, you know, being excited, like, he kept calling me constantly, making sure I signed the papers that I don't back out.
Yes.
So, you know, once I got done with class, I ended up signing the papers. And, you know, like, you know, I let my mom know, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back because, you know, at this time, you know, my brother, like, he can't walk, he can't talk, you know, like, so it was hard to, like, even, you know, like, talk to him over the phone. So I'm like, okay, when I get back, I'm going to explain everything to him, let him know I'm going to be going far away to Kansas, this what it's going to be. So after I signed, you know, the papers, man, probably about 2 hours later, I got a call saying my brother died.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
That was tough. So I called the coach back. I'm saying, hey, listen, the only way I come, I get number 5. He called me back in 30 seconds and was like, hey, it's yours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up at Pitt State.
And hearing that news of your brother, you know, that made you want to even play more. Because sometimes it can make a person say, I don't even want to do this no more.
No, I was done. After that, I was like, nah, I ain't even want to play no more. Like, I didn't want to play no more because you talking about a best friend. Like, when we was younger, we used to fight. He used to beat me up all the time. And then, you know, like, now we older, it's like, okay, like, ain't nobody gonna mess with my brother. Like, we got to that point to where, like, we was, like, real best friends. Like, couldn't nobody come, like, between that.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, like, now he gone. I'm like, I don't want to do it. So the thing about it, I'm in college stuck. My mom ain't got no money to get me home. You know, I'm stuck there for, like, 2-3 days. So my mind just, like, rumbling. Like, Like, I don't know what and I'm just calm. And, I remember my homeboy Fritz, like, bro, you too calm. Like, if that was my brother, I'd be going crazy. But I'm like, it was just like something different. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And, when I finally got home and, just going through that whole process of the funeral, burying him, like, I'm home for like 3 weeks. And the coach is like, just take as much time as you need. And I'm like, I'm done. Like, I didn't tell the coach that, but I'm like, I'm done. I told my mom I'm thinking about like just hanging it up. And my mom was like, okay, she heard at this time, whatever you want to do. So about like 2-3 weeks in, it get to a point to where like, I hear my brother, like I hear his voice,
Wow.
like, get up. Like, you remember what you promised me? Man, I got up and I put my cleats on. And that same routine we talked about with the kids, I went to the park by myself. I ain't need nobody to throw me the ball. I ain't need nobody to do nothing. I would work out constantly like 3-4 hours by myself. Like that was my counseling, like that was my therapy. And it'd be times like my mama would pull up and it's outside raining, thundering and lightning on the park. And she like, you lost your mind? And I'm like, nah, I can't live like this no more. So that was my thing.
That's amazing, man. Going into Pitt State now, you playing football at Pitt State. When did you know, okay, I'm going to the next level now? Like, it's finna happen for me. It's about to happen. Like, everything that I've been working so hard for in my life, when did you really know, like, damn, like, this finna happen for me?
Yeah. I wanna back because my wife, she love when I tell this story. Like, cause, so after like all that happened with my brother, I decided to go up in the summer and be with the team, whatever.
Yes.
So I'm with the team, but I done lost like 40 pounds. So I'm back at like that 140 stage, and we out there practicing, and a dude was like, man, he just fast. He ain't all that. So I'm like, okay. I went to the coach and I'm like, hey, listen, I need to go home. And he like, what? He thinking I was like talking about going home and not coming back. I'm like, no, let me go home, because I promise you, when I go home and I come back, I'm going to be a totally different player. And the coach was like, this ain't your best? I'm like, no, you ain't. I'm like, you ain't see my best yet. He let me go home, and, we got Darius Passmore.
So they just let you go home?
They let me go home. It was in the summer, though.
Oh, okay.
Like for summer,
yes.
Like, so, they were giving people summer jobs and stuff like that. And I'm like, forget the money. And I'm like, let me go home. And, we had Darius Passmore. He went to Marshall, one of the best receivers down there. Took Randy Moss' jersey out of retirement. And, every day, me and him was just working. And, when I got back to the school right before training camp, everybody who said I was just fast, I would call them all on them out. And the coach was like, like, man, like, we got something special. So before I went to, Pitt, I'm looking at the stacks. The quarterback only throwing for like 2,000 yards. The leading receiver got 300 yards. I'm like, no, this ain't the offense for me. So he told me, we gonna change everything around just for you. So when I got there, like the first 4 games, they ain't giving me the ball. We blowing people out. We ain't playing nobody good. But then, we go to playing like Northwest Missouri, the number 1 team in the nation in Division II at that time. And they beating us like 28-3 halftime. And like, they wasn't no joke. And the coach like, hey, get ready. We finna get you involved. And I'm like, we getting blowed out. Now you want to get me involved? So we come out, and I score 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
We come back and win 35-38.
Wow.
So it's like, from that point on, everything the coach said that he was going to do, he did it. I ended up finishing the season with 18 touchdowns. And the year before that, they went 6-6, and we go and win the national championship my first year there. So
How was that feeling? Because a lot of people don't get a chance to experience certain things. And how was that moment? Just a Division II national championship. It's not easy to do. There's a lot of Division II college football teams out here. How was that feeling, man?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Coach Key. I still haven't celebrated it to this day.
Wow.
Because it's just like, at that time I wasn't even playing for me. Like I have great memories of the people I played with, the teammates that I had, but it was never to a point to where I celebrated that. Because, like, after we won and we had our parade, I flew back home and started back working out again.
Wow.
Because I knew, like, hey, like, it don't stop right here. I gotta keep going. So I never celebrated it, but it's just that experience, though. And, I always tell people, and, this is why I coach my kids the way I coach them, because I'm like, hey, listen, do your assignment, do what you told to do. Because when you look at that team, we wasn't athletic. And, it becomes a problem when I'm the most athletic person on the team. From all playing Little League and all that, now I become the most athletic. But the thing about it was, we did our assignment. And you know how they say in football, do your 111.
Yes.
We didn't try to do somebody else's job. We did what we was told to do, and, we was well coached. So that's what made us a great team.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing, man. What was your biggest moment in college football?
My biggest moment in college football, I'll say my biggest moment. Honestly, I got a lot of I got a lot of moments though, because I had to catch up for all the
Yes.
but my main thing was when I never forget one day. It was a Friday. My headphones went out, and I tweeted and I'm like, hey, somebody give me some headphones. I'm gonna score 5 touchdowns. And I get back to my locker room after practice, and I got some new headphones. I had the meat meal scores. I never forget. I got them, and I came in that game and I scored 5 touchdowns.
Wow.
I came and scored 5 touchdowns. So it was like everything that I said I was gonna do, I did it because the confidence that my brother put in me. And like even before the season started, I didn't tell you, like the first time I signed up, Pitt State, I told the quarterback, Zach Dickey, I'm like, hey, the first time I touch the ball, I'm going to score.
Wow.
And he laughed, like, he was laughing, whatever. And we go to this dude, Brian Hutchinson house. He was on the 1990 football team. They won the national championship. So that's the last time that Pitt State won the national championship. So we had some players go in the summer. And, we got into a circle. We was down in this basement. And it was like, okay, everybody introduced themselves. We got people introducing themselves. So they get to me, and I'm like, hey, I'm John Brown. I'm like, the first time I touch the ball, I'm going to score. Everybody laughed. Everybody laughed, and I just stayed with a straight face because at this time, I'm like, okay, like, I'm dead serious. The stuff that I'm going through, like, it's serious. So we fast forward to the game like 2 months later. I'm putting on the pads. I'm looking at my brother pictures. I'm crying, and I'm next to Zach Dickey, the quarterback. And, he helping me put on my pads, and he was like, you all right? I'm like, yeah. But I'm like, before you step on the field, we're going to be up 7-0. And he laughed, and I'm like, I'm dead serious. Defense go out 3 and out, they punt the ball, I take it back 84 yards untouched. And from that point on, like all the players like knew that, I was serious. When I said I was going to do something, I was going to do it. So I was that person that led by example. I didn't have to talk much.
Amen. So knowing that the God-fearing man that you are now, did you have that same type of faith at a younger age in college? Like,
No.
was it there?
No.
Wow.
It wasn't there. I was still, at this time, I'm grown. Like, I could do what I want to do.
Right.
Life going good, I'm thinking, okay, God got me. Like, I got to be doing something right with God. Like, all these things going good. I'm doing everything. Like, I'm performing every day. I'm coming to practice every day, and, scouts coming in. I'm like, oh, yeah, everything going good.
So did you feel like when all this success was happening, did you feel that it was because of me, John Smoke Brown, working hard, I'm here? Or did you feel that God really just blessed me with all this and God did all this for me? At that age?
At that age, I just thought it was me.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, I wasn't going to church. I wasn't reading my Bible.
Yes.
Only time I was praying was before a game, let's be honest. That's all I was doing, praying for, hey, Lord, protect me. So, my thing is like, if I get this money, I'm good. So I thought I was, in good standing with God. But, even when I was younger, I was 12 years old, like a pastor told me, he was like, you're going to be a pastor. You're going to be a preacher. And, I laughed. I'm around my brothers and my friends. I'm trying to be cool.
Uh-huh.
But, I'm like, no, like, football is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in college, like, I broke every record. I broke every receiver record.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the NFL. We got more things that we want to talk about, but I just want to stay on the timeline before we get to more of the deep things. Um, went to the NFL. Did you feel relief when you got there? Like, I made it. Like, I'm here. Was it a time where you want to just take your foot off the pedal? Like, okay, I'm here now.
No,
I made it.
when I got there, I was excited. I'm like, okay, I can take care of my mama. I can make sure she good. That's the whole plan that me and my brother had. So once I got there, and like me getting drafted in the third round,
How did
you
that
know,
make you feel? So were you just sitting home looking at the TV and your name get called?
I'm sitting at home. I'll never forget in the morning. I'm asleep. The Cincinnati Bengals call me, and I jump up, and I'm like, thinking, because I was hanging out,
Uh-huh.
and I'm thinking like, hey, like I'm missing a draft or something. And they like, hey, like, hey, we're gonna draft you in the third round, and I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking I'm going to Cincinnati. So when the time come, they don't, they drafted a running back. But I'm sitting there. I got my family there. I'm watching the TV, and I'm seeing a lot of receivers going before me. And like I'm getting frustrated. And it's getting like towards the end of the third round. And I'm like, man, I'm just finna tell everybody to go home. And my best friend Marcus Roberts, he like, nah, y'all don't go nowhere. Like he coming off the board today. But the day before that, I talked to my agent. And my agent was like, what round you think you gonna go? I'm like, I'm gonna go third round. He was like, nah, they got you like fifth round, like this, and that. It was to the point I was mad, man. I almost fired him. So so he, all that stuff happened, and then it's like I know that the Saints had a pick. It was the Saints, then the 49ers, then somebody else, then the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
So the Cardinals traded up.
Mm-hmm.
And, when Arizona called me, I was surprised because, Arizona, they came to Harris Field to work me out. And when they worked me out, it just like left my mind that yeah, they don't want me. But when they called and they was like, hey, like, you ready to be a Cardinal? And at that point, I didn't care who I played for. I could have went 0-16 my first year. I just wanted to be on the NFL team. So I was definitely frustrated at that time, but I got excited, when I did get there.
And when you got there, did size matter there? Like, did you still feel like my size is going to be a factor here?
No, to me, size wasn't a factor. The main thing was technique. So playing Division II, I'm so used to running past everybody. Now it's like, no, like NFL, side by side is considered you winning as a receiver. Quarterback gonna make a throw, you just gotta adjust the right way. It's rarely that you will be wide open like that. So I really had to like become a technician because it kind of felt like I was behind already because I wasn't facing the competition that they was facing. So the thing was, they wanted to see, can I keep up with the competition?
Mm-hmm. So I looked on the internet and I saw the little famous dance that you do when you catch the ball and stuff like that. So when did you start doing it? Like, did you know that you was gonna do that dance, or just after you scored a touchdown, it just instantly just happened? Like, what happened? Like,
hey, I used to be a little booty shaker back then. Like, I used to be a little dancer, but I never forget that day. That's when the challenges first started out, and George is saying, my good friend, he ended up doing the dance, whatever, and then it's like, okay, like I challenge you. He added my name, and I'm like, okay, this perfect. I go in and score. I'm gonna do that.
and you knew you was gonna score that game.
I knew I was gonna score that game, and I did it. And I thank Coach Sando, but I ain't never tell him though. Madden paid me for that dance. I ain't give him nothing though.
Oh man, because I used to see it all over the internet. At that time, I didn't know who you was, but I just seen a lot of people posting videos of you, tagging you and this and that and that. And I'm looking on the video, and it's like every game you was and it started to be a trend where like people look forward to coming to watch you play and seeing that you was gonna do that dance.
Yeah, because that became my signature dance move. They always wanted to see it.
Have you ever got starstruck before? Like, just going to the NFL and you playing with these big names, guys that you probably was in high school looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And now you playing next to these guys, like the Frank Gores and all that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was there ever a time where you just like, damn, I'm here with them?
The first time I walked in the NFL locker room in Arizona, You know, when I walked in
You
there,
try not to show it, you know,
yeah,
because
yeah, like
you know
Larry,
you try
like
not to show it.
Larry Fitzgerald. You know, I remember Larry Fitzgerald. You know, playing in Pittsburgh. You know, when I was in middle school, and you know, trying to stay up and watch the game. But then, you know, my brother like telling me, man, Larry Fitzgerald went off. You know, and then I got Ted Ginn. I'm in the locker room with Ted Ginn. I'm with Honey Badger. You know, I'm with Antonio Cromartie. Like, I'm around these big name players. And then, you know, the main one that was a shocker to me was when I was starstruck with Megatron.
Okay.
When we played the Detroit Lions, and I'm like, this dude look like a creative player. Like, this dude is like, he like fast. He got everything that you know anybody will want when you put a creative player together.
Was there ever a time where you scored a touchdown on the defensive player where you like, damn, I really just scored on him? Like, I grew up watching him, and I scored on him.
It's a few times. It's a few times, you know, with a lot of players, and you know, it didn't even have to be scoring. You know, the thing was getting the respect, you know, from like people. Like, man, we respect your game, and you know, it's like this dude like older than me, you know, like going across the middle, like getting hit by Charles Woodson. I always wanted to be like Charles Woodson when I was younger. But, you know, like to play against him, I'm like, man, like, and you know, for him to respect my game, that was something big.
And how was it, you know, now you done made it to the NFL, you know, people know who you are. You know, you go on places, everybody know your name. You get what I'm saying? How was the fame now? Like, you know, you starting to get that attention and that extra attention. You know, did that ever leave the person of who you are, your core values and
No.
things like that? You get what I'm saying? Because you know how when some people make it, you know, they lose themselves. And what was a reason or something that just kept you grounded?
For me, I was just always humble. You know, I wanted to always treat people the way I wanted to be treated. You know, I never let it, you know, get to my head. But, you know, it do get like frustrating, you know, at times, like when you out with your family. And, you know, people always want to come up, but, you know, it's to a point to where you don't want to be rude because it's like that come a part of like what you want to do, like when you make it. You know, you want to sign autographs, you want to do things like that. But, you know, I always made sure, you know, I always stayed myself, you know, no matter the situation.
And I know this is a very popular topic for a lot of guys that make it, you know, coming from where we coming from, you know, from the communities and things like that. When you get back to the community, you know, it's people that you haven't spoke to in years. But they know you made it. Now you're getting all these phone calls. Now you're getting all these messages. Now you're getting all these IG DMs. Now everybody got their hands out, and you're a great guy at heart, and you want to help him, but you know that I can't save the whole world. How were you able to find a balance?
I wasn't like that my first year. You know, I just used to help everybody.
And it'll drain you. You get what I'm saying? You look at your bank account like, damn.
Yeah, you
I
want
just
to
won
be.
all
Oh
that?
no, like it wasn't getting to the bank account like that. Listen, like I was smart with my money, but you know, it get to a point to where you try not to be hated. You like always want to be loved, but the thing about it is, people gonna hate you regardless. Even people who calling you for you to help them, they talking behind your back. You know, they doing things like that. But you know, like my first 2 years, it was to a point that like, oh, I wanted to be loved. You know, I was still going back to the community.
Yes.
And you know, people like tell me like, hey, listen, like you can't be living like that no more. Like you can't be out here like that no more because
envy you, no.
you may feel like people love you, but like deep down inside, like people hate you. So it was just like to a point to where like I know the ones that was like up under me, the younger ones, they respected me. And you know, they respect me still to this day. And you know, they was like, okay, like you brought hope, you know, to the community. Like we can't let nothing happen to you. And, you know, that was the thing, you know, just trying to be loved by everybody and help out. And, you know, at the end of the day, it just get to a point to where like you just gotta, hey, nah, I can't do it.
Have you ever felt uncomfortable in an environment before? Like, it can be places that you've always been used to being. You get what I'm saying? And then you get back to that place and you just feel like, yeah, I can't be here no more.
For me, it was just like, you know, certain places in the community. You know, like certain times in the community, that's when it got tough for me. You know, because I just know that, you know, my presence wasn't welcome there no more. You know, even as much as I tried to come back, you know, like to show face, you know, I'm for the community, I'm for the kids, but then, you know, people don't even worry about the kids. They get into a selfish situation to where it's like, oh, like he ain't showing us no love, whatever. But it's like me speaking, me showing up, that's enough. But once I realized that, that's when it's like I kind of like faded away. I stopped going, like there's certain places that made me feel uncomfortable.
Amen. When did you know football was ending for you?
When it was over?
Yeah, like when did you know like man, football is it? Like I'm not gonna catch no more passes no more.
For me, I would say, like my last year, like like I would say my last year. So like around probably like, cause I did 9 years, like my 6th year in the league,
You start to slow
that's
down.
when I started like finding Christ in my life, and I started taking it serious.
Yes.
But the main thing was when I went back, because like I missed like a whole year, and like my last year I missed like the whole year, and Buffalo called me back like around Thanksgiving time. And when I went back to practice, they threw me a pass. I tried to toe tap on the sideline like I was a youngin'. And I failed. Nobody tackled me or nothing. I failed, and I was sore for like 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, it's time to hang it up. That body wasn't healing the same. So I knew that, okay, like, yeah, this the last straw. And every time I go to practice, I'm like, man, I'd rather be home with my family. Like I want to just like quit and just go home. But I'm like, my pride wouldn't let me. I'm like, no, I'm gonna finish this out. And after that, that's it. I'm done.
Take away football. Who was John Smoke Brown outside of football? Because everybody see you as the NFL football player. That NFL player, that football player. Take that helmet off, them jerseys off. Who are you? Like, how would you explain yourself to the world?
I explain myself to the world to let them know I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a mentor, I'm a minister. I love preaching the gospel. Like any way that I can help somebody, I'm willing to help. Like I love talking to people, not even about football, just about life. Like so, I love to travel. Me and my family, we travel a lot. So those are the main things. Like when you ask me who I am outside of football, like I just know it's bigger than me.
Amen.
This is why I'm to a point to where that I'm coaching now. Because it's like when I look at these kids, I see me.
And
some of them don't have that father figure. And like that was me once upon a time in my life. Certain kids deal with certain things a certain way because they don't have that mentor on them, who gonna be hard on them. So that's what you get like when you see me, outside the pads.
What made you really dig deep for God? Like what made you really start to find that love and that compassion for God? Was it a tragic event? Like what was it that say, you know what? God is calling. I really want to take this route with God.
I remember when I ended up signing to Baltimore. And at this time I done tried everything except drugs. And it's just like I got the nice house. Basically every car that I wanted, I got the money, I got everything. Like even trying like different women at the time, And it's just like it wasn't no peace. It wasn't nothing being found, in that time, like for me to even get to a point to where like, okay, this is what I found. So, one day I ended up like going to church. And in the time of me going to church, the pastor was telling me, you're gonna be going somewhere. You're gonna hear the voice of God, and the voice of God gonna tell you to go home. When you hear the voice, go home, take heed. So just mind you, God probably been talking to me. I'm sure he been talking to me the whole time, but I never paid attention. So I never forget, man. I just bought the new Range Rover that came out. I had it for like a month on some rims looking clean. And, I hear this voice say, go home. Me and my cousin in the car. And I ignored it. And I'm driving. And somehow I don't even see the light. I run it. Dude just rammed and hit me on the side. Total lost the car. Like I was healthy and everything. They was healthy too, thank God. And,
Amen.
it's to a point where I'm like, okay, God, like what you want? whatever you want, I'm gonna do it at this point because I'm tired. Like I'm tired of running now.
Yes, sir.
Like, and that's what made me like get deep into God. And like at Buffalo, even at Baltimore, I had Mr. Johnny. He used to always instill the word into me, and like every time I was doing something, and I knew like it was gonna come and backfire. Like he was being honest with me. He wasn't like sugarcoating with me. He was being real with me. And Mr. Lynn in Buffalo, he used to like he came one day talking about the word, and I'm like, I ain't got no Bible. He brought me a Bible and everything, and that's when it got to a point like, okay, I really want to learn everything what God is saying to me. I
Amen.
really want that peace.
Amen.
And ever since I've been following, it's been peaceful.
Amen. There are some viewers out here that, you know, they want a relationship with God. And they struggling right now. And they straddling the fence. And they don't know how to get that communication, that relationship. What are some things that you can tell them, that it helped you
Mhm.
where you start to learn God and got to know God? What are some things that you can tell them?
What I could tell them is just find a group, find a church home or somebody you can trust, who gonna be honest, who not gonna be a yes man. They're gonna let you know when you wrong. And like also like be honest with God. That's the thing, I had to be honest with God. Like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Like, hey, I need help in this area. Like, I ain't right. Like, help me, like show me this. And like God will reveal itself, to you. But you gotta be willing. You just can't say it just because it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta say it and mean it. And God knows our heart. A lot of people like to say like, oh, God know my heart. Yeah, he really know your heart though. So it's like if he know your heart, just be truthful to him.
Amen. Amen. So the route that you're going, do you think it's going to be a calling for you to one day be a pastor and have your own church? Is that something that you would like to do?
At this point, it ain't even what I want to do. It's what God want me to do. But I definitely would. I definitely would like to. Like no lie. I'm not ashamed of my faith. I'm not I'm not afraid to walk in, my calling, what God is calling me to do. And this the reason why, I'm coaching. Like I told you, like I never had plans on going back to Florida City. But it got to a point to where God had to get me away to tell me like, okay, now you go back. Like so now it's like I have an assignment to do, with these kids.
Yes, sir.
So once I'm able to impact the kids, and like I'm teaching them how to pray now, because your son played for
Yeah,
me. They argue about who gonna pray, because it's like a lot of them don't have that at home.
Yes.
A lot of them don't know, they don't understand. So I just try to teach them it's bigger than football.
Amen.
So if whatever God want me to do, like I'm willing to do it. If he
Amen.
willing to send me, in the toughest places to go get him, like that's what I'm gonna do because he's sending me for a reason.
Amen. So with this little league football team and you're coaching now in the community, what is your biggest goal? Like, what is your goal out of this? Like, I know it ain't winning football games or Super
Yeah.
Bowls and stuff like that. It ain't taking the kid to the NFL because you get these parents. Oh, I'm taking my son to John Smoke Brown because he been to the NFL and he gonna make sure my baby get to the NFL. So, and I know that's not where you're
Yeah.
trying to go, and that's not the focus. So, what is the focus, and what can you ensure parents if they bring their kids to you in Florida City? What can you ensure to them that's gonna happen?
Oh, I can assure them they bring their kids to Florida City. Their kids gonna get coached hard. It's bigger than football. Like I said too, my job is to lead them to Christ. Hopefully the parents can get involved. My thing is that I need to, okay, like, let me see what your grades like. You can score as many touchdowns as you want, but if you ain't got the grades, you can't play for nobody. If you come and give attitude, you gonna sit down. And like, that's the thing, like when people bring their kids to me, they gonna realize like, I know what it takes, and like the way that I coach is, for the kids, to grow up to be young men. Like you start now. It ain't no favoritism, it ain't babying nobody, because kids don't show up to practice and like they feel like, they can play, and coaches allow that to happen. But my thing is like, no, like we're gonna do things the right way. We're a young man, we're gonna be truthful to one another, we're gonna speak, And if something make you uncomfortable, we gonna talk. So my thing is building young men, because the thing about it is I can't get you into the NFL. But if you take everything I'm telling you by changing your attitude, coming to practice, willing to work, and doing everything you told to do, that can help you get there.
Amen. Amen. So this podcast, before you wrap it up, is called Real Coaching Podcast. And everyone is always asking, what is real coaching? What does it stand for? When I first started real coaching, people thought that I was saying that I was better than other people. I was a better coach than other people, but it had nothing to do with me being a better coach. It had nothing to do with the scoreboard. It had something to do with, real coaches making an impact on kids' lives and changing their lives and turning young boys to young men. What does real coaching means to you?
Oh, real coaching to me is, mentoring. Like me, I played on that level to show them the ropes, to life, the things to do. Like, is for me, it's not a ego thing, because I done did it. I done played on the highest level. So my thing is just that, like teach these kids, life lessons, life experiences, because at the end of the day, football helped me overcome, a lot of life experiences as well. So to let them know, like, listen, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right. So that's my thing of, real coaching.
Amen. Hey, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Coach Key. Thank you. This was the Real Coaching Podcast. John Smoke Brown. Smoke, before we end this episode, what is something you want to tell the people?
Man, I just want to tell you, listen, keep God first, keep him in your life, listen. And, listen, if your kids gonna, get involved in sports, y'all just back out the way. Let these coaches do what they supposed to do. And, let your kids, learn from other people as well, because it get hard when, you trying to coach kids and, the parents always got say so. So, like you got your kids there for a reason. So let the coaches be trusted with them.
Amen. Hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Coach Key, Real Coaching.
Man, that's good, man. I appreciate
you, man. I appreciate
that's
you,
good, man. I love
You got a great story, man. I told you, man. That
I
story,
forgot to
man.
bring the book.